Hello ladies, welcome to the first video lecture for ITS 1672 class number 6. I hope you like my tie. I wore it especially for this video lecture. Actually I didn't, I am going to the opera this evening. I wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction to what we're going to be talking about during this week's lecture. So there'll be this introductory video and then there'll be 3 other videos to cover the topics that we're covering. And I'm going to try something new this week. We're going to put the videos up on YouTube, so they should be easier to watch. So we're going to talk about some more components of creating classes. Specifically, we're going to talk about general methods that you can use to do anything you want to with the data that exists in a class. Then we're going to talk about a couple of classes of special methods called getters and setters. Getters are the ones that allow you to retrieve data from the class. Setters are the methods that allow you to set the values of data in a class. So, up to now in the online lectures we had last week with Carl, we've talked about the general characteristics of classes. And you will recall that classes contain fields, which some people call instance variables. It's the data about the class, and they also contain methods, which are the functions, the subroutines, whatever you want to call them, that we use to manipulate the data of the class. We also discovered that fields and methods can be either public or private. If they're public, they can be used by anybody in the world. If they're private, they can be used only from within the class. So to continue on with what we've learned about up to now, the big topic of discussion last week was a special method called a constructor. Every class will have a constructor. The purpose of the constructor is to allow you to create an instance of the new class. So, in order to make sure that your class will work correctly, Java will create a default constructor for you if you don't create one in your class definition. The constructor will be named. The method itself will have the same name as the class. So if you're creating a class called vehicle, as I did, your constructor will be called vehicle. If you're creating a class called student, your constructor will be called student. The default constructor that Java creates, sorry ladies, I had to pause the recording there because I was interrupted by a phone call, as you might have been able to hear in the background. So anyway, Java creates this default constructor if you don't create one. And basically what it'll do is when you create a new instance of the class, a new object of this class, it will set all the instance variables to either 0 or null, depending on whether they're numeric data or a string data. It's used when the user creates a new object without specifying anything about it. As you can see here in the example, where you see student S1 equals new student, empty set of parentheses. That's using the default constructor by definition. Now you can also create a default constructor to control what you want to have happen when things are defined that way. And if you look back at the vehicle example that I used, I created a default constructor where I set the vehicle name to unknown and its weight to 1,000 and its miles per gallon to 10, I think, when the default constructor is used. So default constructor doesn't have to set everything to 0 or null. It can also set things to values that you choose to define. In that case, you are overriding the default constructor to have it be what you want it to be. So in addition to the default constructor, you can overload the constructor by creating other definitions of it in which you choose to specify initial values for variables. So in this case, you would have, in this position right here, in the parentheses, you would have past parameters, which are providing data values that you want for the instance variables that are in the class. So that's about a constructor, constructing a new object of the class. Now, going forward from here, we're going to talk about some other concepts that are important to the creation of classes. The first concept we're going to talk about is our more general methods, which basically with which you can do whatever you need to do. The example that they used in the book is a method that calculates the grade average for a student and returns the value of that average. So we'll go through a demonstration of that, take a look at that code in more detail, and take this opportunity to take it apart with a debugger. We'll do that in a video I'll call 11.4, which we'll put up in a link on Blackboard. Okay, next we're going to talk about methods that work with the instance variable values, setters, which are also called mutators or modifiers, which allow you from a program to change the values of the instance variables, change the values in a very controlled way. This is an important thing. They create the interface between you as a program and the outside world and the instance variables, and that way the person who created the definition of the class can control how you change the values of the instance variables. And then the mirror image of the setters are something called getters, also called accessors, which allow you to retrieve the values of the instance variables. So you can look inside of an object and find out what the values of the instance variables are. We'll take a look at those and go through some examples in video 11.5. And then last but not least, a short little section, we'll talk about a main method. The main method is something that you can put in a class if you want that class to be able to run as a standalone program. With a main method in the class, you can then run it as a program. A class definition in and of itself is only like a library. But if you want to be able to run the main method, or run the class as a program, you can put in a main method, and a main method is the method that Java will look for as a starting point for a program, and start the program from there, and then run the program. So we'll have video 11.6, which talks about that in some detail. And as part of all of this, we will practice the debugger to demonstrate what's going on inside the code. So before we sign off this video, just let's have a reminder of what you need to do before next class. You need to watch the remaining videos, of course. After you've done all the videos, you need to complete the online quiz, which is available for you online. It's time limited, and is, of course, open book, open note, and as we always say, not open friend. Then complete the assignments for next time. We're going to finish up chapter 11 for next class. The forum assignments are indicated there, and the homework assignments are indicated there. They're also in the syllabus, of course. As usual, Carl will be on the PRC on May the 5th. I will be there on May the 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. in both cases. And our next class will be May 9th, 2009. Don't forget, it will be an in-class session here at the Women's College, room 250, and we'll be going from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. So we'll sign off this video and pick it up with the next video where we'll be talking about general methods.